It's yours.
Hello everyone, Fesca Mulagaib, agus Balta Bla Oda Ula. Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to you all. It's Mr. Dominique, is Sauna Jackson Hampshire Hami. Hami Edavi against the Gaelic Fat Bleanikin. So my name's Dominique, I'm from Jackson. I've been learning Scottish Gaelic for a long time. I guess Bini a Shine aus the Gaelic and Jew. I guess Hami a Brin Gaelic and last. So I'm speaking a little bit of Gaelic to you now so you can get a sense of what the language sounds like, but I will also be singing in Gaelic, and it's different hearing a language sung from hearing it spoken, so it's nice to have a taste of both. I'm going to start out actually with a piece that comes from a different part of the Gaelic world, from Ireland, and it's by the most famous Irish harp player of all time, Turlough O'Carolan. And I'll tell you a little bit more about him when I play another one of his pieces later. But for now, I'll just say that this piece is known as Carolyn's Welcome. Thank you so much. Some of you might know that I'm working on a new album right now, and I'll be recording that in about 3 weeks in Cape Breton in a beautiful old historic parish hall called Glencoe Mills Parish Hall. And it's actually a space not unlike this. It's got wooden walls and wooden floor, and it's a really nice. These spaces are they're amazing for the reflection of sound, and the acoustics are really good. So it's great to be in here making music today. I'm going to share some of the material from that album with you all. I've been working on a project where I take Scottish dance music, jigs and reels and Stratus Bs, and this tradition in the Gaelic culture called Portia Bale, which is mouth music. So they have a long-standing tradition of Gaelic songs that fit very precisely to the exact rhythms of the dance music. And I think there's a very strong relationship between the rhythms of a language and the rhythms of the music that the people who speak it create. And that's one of the things that got me into Gaelic in the first place. And so I've been exploring that connection through this mouth music, playing it, singing it, accompanying it on the harp. And in the project I'm working on, there'll be a step dancer and a fiddler as well, which will be really wonderful. They're not here with me today, but I'll do my best. I'm kind of a one-man band with the harp. You have right hand plays melody, left hand plays accompaniment. The foot is part of the sound as well, and then when you're singing, it's just a lot to keep track of. But it is pretty fun. So these are 3 tunes. They're all jigs, and the words aren't necessarily. The words are almost a little bit like nursery rhymes. They're the point is the rhythm of the words and the sort of ingenious way they fit to the tune. But it's not so much the depth of the words. And there are Gaelic songs with a great deal of depth, and I'll sing you some of those later. But these are quite light and fun. I might take a drink first, just to be safe. around with these levers at the top of the harp here. If you're not familiar with the instrument, this is often called a lever harp, and that differentiates it from the pedal harp that you see in orchestras, which there they use pedals to get the sharps and the flats. But here we use levers, and so if I play a string and put up a lever, I get a half change in tone. So if you can imagine, if anyone's ever played a piano, I have the white notes of the piano with the strings, and then to get the black notes, and sometimes I have to do that in the middle of the set, which is always exciting. I'm going to slow things down and sing a Gaelic song for you. It's called Catravili and Mulla, and it's a love song that originally comes from in Shanduich, the old country in Scotland. You'll see me in Origin and a Cape Breton. So it's a Cape Breton version of a Scottish song. And I thought, I've loved this song for a couple of years, and I thought I was all done with it, and I had all the verses ready to go into the studio. And I was in Cape Breton about a month ago, and I realized there were 3 more verses. and so I learned those too. Gaelic songs, a lot of them were written at a time when that was the main form of entertainment, and there wasn't a television or even necessarily a radio. And so the songs often tell stories, and were sort of the primary focus for an evening's fun. So they can be long. Just so you have something to picture in your mind as I'm singing this, it's a song sung by a young man, and he's quite deeply in love with a woman who really doesn't seem to have much time for him. He's had no luck so far, but he has nothing but praise for her. And he talks about sort of the season of the year, so I think he's up watching after livestock, and he's talking about the snow on the mountains, and that he can't sort of go out courting until the snow melts, which I think we can all relate to not going out until the snow melts. And there's some really beautiful poetry in here too. He sort of compares her, like the colour of her eyes to like blackberries, and the birds that are out. And there's a lot of sort of nature imagery in here, which I think we could all appreciate. So something to think about as you're listening. Achayu isnayuruela, Achayu agis yuruela, Yurubo agis oruela, Mokrunyakan kida traumati. Catravili and Mulla, Krunyakoy agis gidamanya, Livina vina floi kodia, Svachakakon circulated banu, Akayu isnayuruela, Akayu agis yuruela, Yurubo agis oruela, Mokrunyakan Catravili on an awardin, Konya grain down his gila tapa, Slis marina duten fedja, Skerik of angel, I'm mokara, Akayu isnayuruela, Akayu agis yuruela, Yurubo agis oruela, Mokrunyakan gida traumati. I can of Fukuari, Bayern Stadtgeld, Pjauntarasset, Kratschig Mische, hier ist mein Glöge, auch gesagt, was nach Lampenheimja, auch ein ist die Juruela, auch ein Jurues, Juruela, Jurubo, Agis, Oruela, auch Brunjakan, gedat Traumati. This next one is a special request for Randy. Thank you for having me here today. I played this at a concert that Randy was at. It's a tune called "O'er the Moor Among the Heather," and it's a really, really special kind of a tune. It's a cross between an air and a march. It's called a marching air, and there you have it. It comes from 18th century Scotland, and it's a little bit more related to music that was based on theme and variation. And this has actually 5 parts to it, and the first 2 parts start out really slow, like an air, and then it starts to pick up in rhythm. It reaches marching tempo, and then it quiets back down again at the end. And it's a piece that's really, really beloved in Cape Breton, as well as Scotland. And my version comes from a wonderful tradition bearer and fiddle player called Buddy McMaster. He was kind of the grandfather of Cape Breton fiddle for a long time. And some of you might be familiar with his niece, Natalie McMaster. She's very famous for this. So, "O'er the Moor Among the Heather." Gaelic Arish in last. I'm going to sing the Gaelic song for you. And this is a song that it comes from a tradition of work songs. So sometimes they're called milling songs or walking songs, W-A-U-L-K. And there's a certain stage in the finishing of Tweed after it's been woven, and you take it off the loom, sew it into a big circle, and you wet it. And it's sort of a process of felting, so all the women of the community would gather together at this special table, and they would kind of pound it against the board until it had shrunk a certain number of inches. It really brought the cloth together and made it sort of more resistant to water and wind. And this was long, hard work, so they'd sort of save up all their weaving together. They'd have a day where they'd get together, and they used songs to make that work lighter and easier. And there's a huge body of Gaelic song that's this type of song. So this one is called Alrak and Difon Gila, and it's a version of the song that I learned from the Cape Breton archive. And it tells the story. We don't have all of the lines, I think. It's sort of an incomplete story, but it's a young man, and he's saying my plaid is soaked and it's dirty, and he's on a voyage. And he won't tell you why or how. He can't even tell you how sort of drenched and miserable he is. And there's a sort of hint in there that he might be even on a voyage to the New World. There's a reference to islands where a strange bird lives and nobody's ever been there before. And he actually talks about being very hungry on board and all the weight that he's lost. So he seems to be on a long journey indeed. And these songs have a repeated chorus, and sort of the verse changes each line. And yeah, that's what I'll tell you about this one. Give you another one of those Porch Travail sets again. And this is a different kind of tune. So the first set that I played for you is a kind of tune called a jig. And this one has a different rhythm. This is a Stratus B and a couple of reels. And the Stratus B is the sort of only Scottish, truly solely Scottish tune type. It originated in Scotland about 300 years ago in the Spey Valley as a way of playing reels, and it's sort of very bouncy. The notes are quite, there's a lot of unevenness in the Stratus B, purposeful unevenness. It does actually remind me a lot of speech rhythms in the way it's put together. And then you'll hear this change when I go into the reels become smoother, and the sort of the pulse shifts as well, so you can listen out for that. And these are 3 tunes that come from the Scottish Highlands.
It's surprising how athletic an instrument the harp is all on its own. It takes a tremendous amount of energy to
just the action of plucking a string requires a lot of strength, even though sometimes it looks very smooth. So I'm going to play another piece by the great Irish harper Turlough O'Carolan, and he was born in 1760, and he died. No, 16. Sorry, he died in 1738, and he was born in late 1600s. I usually have that at the top of my head, but not today. And he lived at a time when the old Irish harp music was still happening. It was still being passed from person to person, and this was almost a form of classical music that required a tremendous amount of training, and it was it was art music. It was very subtle, and so he studied that. But he also was exposed to Baroque music coming in from the continent, and of course to the modern dance music that was taking shape in the kitchens and the barns as well. And you can hear all three of those strands in his playing. I think this piece reminds me really of the old Irish music, and particularly the sean-nós style of singing that's quite highly ornamented. And you'll notice the phrases, they don't really repeat. There's an idea, and then it's developed, and they're related to each other, but it has a more wandering quality than the dance music, which is a bit more repetitive for functional reasons, as well as aesthetic ones. So the other really cool thing about Carolan is that he came to the harp in an interesting way. He caught smallpox in his late teens, and he was blinded. And at that time, a lot of young people in that situation were taught to play the harp, and then they had a way to make a living. And this is what happened to Carolan. He had a patron, and she took care of his harping education. And after his study, he went off around Ireland, and he travelled from house to house, making his living composing for his patrons and entertaining the household. And he was very highly popular and respected in his day, and he is even now. So this particular piece is called Mabel Kelly. summer afternoon. I have some tunes I only play in certain seasons, and I only play on a summer afternoon. So I'm going to sing another milling song or walking song, and I'm going to ask for your help with it. Don't be afraid. There's no actual words to learn. The chorus of this is vocals, and it's just 2 lines. And the reason I'm asking for your help with it is the choruses of these songs are really meant to be sung, and they're not truly complete without an audience of people singing with the singer. It's not necessarily a tradition about somebody just standing up there alone. Sometimes it is, but with these chorus songs it's not. And so it's more a true feeling of the song when everybody's in on the chorus. And it's a lot more fun for me too. So this song is, I'll teach you the chorus of it, and then we'll fire into it. And it's, I don't know how many verses it has. But it's not a forever song. But you will have many chances to kind of work on this as you sing it. So it'll be brilliant by the end. And the chorus goes, he la, so he la, he la. The tune is he la, lo, ho, goo. Just try that. He la, lo, ho, goo. Beautiful. Let's do 2 more just to be safe. He la, lo, ho, goo. One more. He la, lo, ho, goo. Only other line. He la, lo, he ha, hoo. He la, lo, he ha, hoo. Let's do that together. He la, lo, he ha, hoo. One more. He la, lo, he ha, hoo. And then the first one is almost the same. He la, lo, ho, goo. He la, lo, ho, goo. Let's just give that a round and then we'll fire into it. So here's the order of it. It goes he la, lo, ho, goo. He la, lo, he ha, hoo. He la, lo, ho, goo. One more time. He la, lo, ho, goo. He la, lo, he ha, hoo. He la, lo, ho, goo. Sounds gorgeous. Really nice voices out there. And don't worry, if you feel like you didn't get the precise syllable of each. No, I got drugs. Don't worry about it. Just sing the tune to any syllable of your tune. I will take a little bit faster than that. This is a work song. There's work to be done. And traditionally, these songs would not have been accompanied. And so this is the natural setting that you'd hear it. You'd have just the voices and the chorus. This song, I'll tell you a little bit about what's it about. It's a lot of these songs are from a woman's perspective because women were traditionally doing this work. And I think a lot of them are improvisational in nature as well, so they might make jokes about something going on in the community or politics or somebody's cow got out of the barn. And some of them have a lot more depth and a lot more sadness as well, so the full spectrum of human experience can be found among their subjects. And this one actually is, there are a lot of songs like this. It starts out very, very normal for a Gaelic song. I woke up in the morning, I put my clothes on, I went out for a walk, my true love came with me, so far so good, but it becomes, classic, right? It becomes obvious that her true love is a violent man, and not, it gets a little bit worrying, and there are clues that are coming through the verses there. But she kind of finishes it off, and there's a lot of this that shows up in traditional songs. It's kind of a way to witness the more difficult aspects of life that sometimes you can't talk about in person, but if you sing a song about it, you can do it in front of a whole room full of people. So, and I think that's really, really important, and so that's why sometimes I sing songs that are either sad or about things that are a little bit difficult to deal with. I think it's a really important thing to do. So now that you've forgotten the chorus, we're going to go for it, right? And I will take it a little bit faster clip, but do what you can. He la lo goo, he la lo he la lo goo, yay, Really, really well done. And I forgot to warn you that one of the ways they signify the end of a Milling song is they double the chorus. So thank you for coming along with me on that little journey. And that song was actually, all the songs on my album are from archival recordings from Cape Breton. And that's a woman who's from the North Shore of Cape Breton. And her name is Josie Samwise. And for some reason in Cape Breton, there's more men keeping up the singing tradition than women. It's just the way it seemed to kind of happen. And she's one of the few women in this that particular area that was recorded at that time. So it's kind of a special song in that way. I'm going to play a couple more for you. I'll play you, I really, really love waltzes. And so I'm going to play a waltz for you. It's called Louise Mackenzie. And it's a newer composition from Scotland. And I don't actually play a lot of things that were written after 1930. So this is kind of unusual, but I really love this melody. I think it's stunning. There are people who do compose in the old style, and their pieces are worth playing and listening to. So this is a sweet little waltz, and by all means, if anyone feels like a dance, I'm not actually joking. I did that. I did this in Vermont, and Vermont really loves their contra dancing and their sort of community dance styles. And I said that at a gig, and I had 8 couples, and they were all really into it. That's not a great tune. I really like that tune too. It's also a wolf, but I meant to play this one. set for you before I finish off, and I'd like to just say a really huge thank you to the Boho Historical Society for hosting me, and also just for letting me play in this really gorgeous acoustic space. It's wonderful, and for the amazing chair. I had a hard time finding a chair of the right height, and Randy very generously took me through, and we were looking at all the historic chairs, which I'm kind of a history nerd, so it was very exciting for me. And it was a little bit like Goldilocks. I was like, oh, no, that chair. And when I saw this one, I was loving her sight, and it matches the carpet and everything. So thank you for this very good chair. And a huge thanks to all of you for coming out on a beautiful sunny summer afternoon and sharing some music with me. I really love this music. I love playing it, and I love talking about it too. So thank you for listening, and you're welcome to come up after if you have any questions or thoughts. And I'll finish off with another set that will be on my album. It's a cheerful group of Portrait Vale. Jigs again. Jigs are my favorite tunes. And yeah, they're all quite sort of cheerful subjects as well. The first one is about a man who is going courting. The second one, oh, it's quite funny. It says it's about a bachelor, and it's saying like the one who is long and marrying will grow long hair and a beard. And it's pretty cute. And the final one is a tune about a little girl. She has a beautiful new dress and ribbons and coat, and she's all dressed up in gold. So it's cheerful tunes and cheerful subjects. Landscape